about a few things, because there's something that many of us don't realize is what keeps us charged and strong. And so God showed me that we got to have one of these right here in our life. Now, this is a big old country Bible from my mama's house right here. And the good old folks, they always have one of these in the living room or in the den somewhere. They may not read it, but it's certainly on display. But God began to show me that sometimes the enemy will come in and put so much distance between us and the battery source. And when that happens, you can go through so much sometimes that every time you go through, it weakens you. Every time you pull on somebody else's burden and you take their problem as yours, it can weaken you, because sometimes you pour it into them, but they ain't pouring back into you. Sometimes God will start blessing you, and the people that were with you while you were going through, they can't get happy while God is blessing you, so that weakens you. What happened to you celebrating me when God is blessing me the same way I was celebrating you when God was blessing you? The disconnection just runs us down. The lack of praying, the lack of our prayer life, and it weakens us. And although this is by example, sometimes we may not look like this physically, but spiritually we can be all the way to the ground. God began to show me that the enemy will separate us from this word so that we lose our charge. So I began to think, I said, Lord, how do you get your charge back? And for whatever reason, a car has just been coming to me time and time again. Whenever the car battery runs down, you got to get some of these right here. How many of y'all got some of these in your car? If not, you always have to call somebody else so they can come and hook you up. So what you do whenever you need to recharge a battery, you've got to hook it up. Look at somebody and say, hook it up. I love this, because God began to deal with me, because he says sometimes God has to come in our lives with some spiritual jumper cables so that we can get a jump. So what happens when we get to the house of the Lord and we hear a word, something begins to happen, and it'll do this to it. Oh Lord. When we get a word from our spirit and God says to us, you don't need to be there any longer, because if you get to the house of the Lord, you can come lay down all your burdens and something will happen like this. Oh my. Y'all, some of y'all ain't seeing yourself here. A word will come to your life like no weapon formed against me shall prosper. So even though I'm down, it'll come into my life. Oh Lord. And it'll start standing me up, because God reminded me that he that hath begun a good work in me. I ain't preaching to everybody, but I got about 6 people that's been down on the floor before, and God says, I'm about to give you a jump, and the jump is going to cause you to lift your hands, and you're going to come out with your hands lifted up. I don't know who I'm talking to in here today, but God says, if you need a jump, lift your hands real quick. And he says, I'm sending a word right now, and I'm sending it to you, and I'm going to strengthen